Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly AgWeather update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. We're going to start off today with two drought monitor maps. The one on the left is from February 1st of this year, and the one on the right is from May 17th. This would be the latest data we have available over here on the right. Now, if we just look at the Carolinas, we can see that during the last few months, we have developed drought on the drought monitor closer to the coast. And there are still a few areas that are drier than normal throughout, the Carolinas getting to the Appalachian Mountains in the southeast. But if I could draw your attention to elsewhere around the country, I want to make a couple of important points here because we're going to put this into the context of the long-range forecast in just a second. First, extremely wet weather in the northern plains has completely wiped out the drought. In fact, we've got so much flooding here in the upper Midwest right now that planting delays have been just ubiquitous. You come down south of that, though, and just take a look. You're comparing this map to this one, how much deeper the drought has gotten, where we grow a lot of cotton, like right in this particular area. There's been some big severe storms that have rolled through there, and of course we've had our fair share here in North Carolina. But those storms have not been of the widespread variety that can really knock out drought. And then if you follow them with temperatures in the hundreds and windy conditions, the rain is just gone. And that's why the drought situation is deepened here. What has changed is that back in early February, 75% of the land area in the lower 48 did have some form of drought. And when you look at it now, you can see that that has changed to about 63%. In fact, I want to look at one other thing here with the newest drought monitor. So let's just go have a look. Let's go to the change maps. And I'm curious about how much the drought monitor, try that again. There we go, has changed just in the last 3 months. There we go. So this now highlights the areas that we were talking on where we had a class degradation. Of course, we have parts of North Carolina and through here, but I just want to make this point right into this area in the southwest through California, and pockets here in the Great Basin have really seen substantial drought development. And we need to talk about those and where they're going. So let's look at it another way, a little bit shorter time period. This would be basically April 1st up until yesterday on Sunday. So these are our ranks maps. Now, your eye is probably drawn to the extremes in the color bar. So we're looking here at the northwest, into the northern plains and upper Midwest, and then parts of New England. And we're also seeing to the south here from Texas all the way to Southern California. And by the way, between the two is where the greatest temperature contrast has been, and the jet stream has sat right in the middle of there as well. But just take note here that we are seeing some regions in the southeast that have been drier. Now, we have got rainfall recently, plus the rainfall that's coming that's going to be corrective on a lot of this. You'll see that in a few moments. But can we put this into the bigger context of where this is going? Soil moisture is the first part of this story. Now, our latest 16-inch or 40 centimeter soil moisture percentage, you can see there are pockets, very dry, North Carolina, western South Carolina, getting to Georgia and Alabama, although this is really going to change here in the very near term. Same thing for Virginia. But this area through here is one I'm concerned about for the redevelopment of drought. So if you're a corn and soybean farmer and you're watching the Midwest carefully, a couple of things to point out. The delays in the northern plains, unfortunately, are going to continue. Same thing for the southern Canadian prairie. And there is risk in the longer term of drought expanding once again in critical parts of the western corn belt down into the southern and central plains, hitting this part of the cotton belt as well. All right. And where that risk comes from is our continued analysis of these ocean temperatures. So what we've seen is we've maintained the cooler bias here, and we call this particular view where there's warmer water here with colder water that kind of hugs the coast. That's something called the negative phase of the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. And our La Nina still exists. Even though we've seen some volatility in the trade winds, we had a big, what we call convectively coupled Kelvin wave that went racing around the world. It goes, all along the equator. In fact, it was part of what was responsible for the little tropical disturbance that came out of the Gulf this past week. I'll talk about that in a second. The bigger picture remains. The colder water here is symptomatic of what the trade winds have been doing. It's symptomatic of what the whole of the atmosphere is doing. We need to watch this carefully because what this does later in the summer is increase the drought risk in the place I told you that it was starting to redevelop. Okay. Now, right now, the probability of the La Nina persisting is the highest in terms of the three categories. So La Nina versus neutral versus El Nino. The mid-May update from Columbia University's IRI long-range forecasting group suggests that now the probability of getting El Nino to develop even through December, January, February is around 10%, but maintaining La Nina is somewhere between 50 and 60%. It's the highest category. So I just look at all of this, and it seems as though we are going to be dealing with La Nina base state in the atmosphere for a while. Now, the Climate Prediction Center updated its seasonal forecast, and I'd like to show them to you really quickly here. Let's first look at the temperature forecast for June, July, and August. So what we notice is if there's a place around the country that sees the greatest deviations from normal, it's going to be the southern plains through the high plains back into the Great Basin. And while we are still forecast to have above normal temperatures this summer, the anomalies are quite small. From there, though, let's go into July, August, and September. And it's a similar pattern, all right? But what we need to see now is what the summer precipitation forecasts look like. And this is what the July, August, and September outlook is. So we're going to go backwards in time a little bit here. So this would be mid to late summer. We see we're forecast to be wetter than average on the East Coast, and the models that NOAA uses are very aggressive on developing drought in parts of the Midwest and Western Corn Belt. Let's go back, though. That was July, August, September. Let's go back to June, July, August. And again, we see a similar pattern with the wetter conditions here. But notice that if there's going to be drought, according to NOAA, developing or redeveloping here in the Western Corn Belt, it's going to be a little bit later in the summer. Earlier summer could see the drought region into this particular spot. So I look at all of that, and before I explain the meteorology of it very quickly, I want to show you the latest kind of update here globally for June, July, and August. Now, when we look at this particular map, your eye's drawn to, Australia, very wet. That's typical of La Nina. You see pockets in Europe showing up dry. But when you look over here in the United States, let's go zoom in on North America. We notice we're wetter here, although, interestingly enough, the IRI group is trying to pick up in June, July, August on a drier bias. I don't have a lot of evidence to support why that would be the case, because right now, and this is kind of the meteorology of this, the models are attempting to keep, the subtropical high, the Bermuda high, pretty far out there. And that tends to just feed better moisture into the Carolina coast. This could possibly be due to the fact that the forecast run was initialized drier. But as we go out there to July, August, September, okay, you see it kind of goes away. And the greatest risk tends to be here and here for the driest conditions. So I think a lot of this is going to be boiling down to two important things. The first is, do we continue to see troughs of low pressure here? That's where they've been. And if they are there in the middle of summer, the pattern tends to ridge here, trough there, and ridge here. And that tends to increase the risk of drought in the plains to the Midwest. That does not increase our risk of drought, because what you end up getting over here is the Bermuda high staying put. So it feeds. Okay, that particular setup tends to do well for us in terms of precipitation. Unfortunately, it ends up guiding hurricanes toward the coast as well, which is why we're still looking at about a 125 to 150% of average on this particular hurricane season. That's the latest guidance that I've got. Okay, so all of these things are kind of the pieces we're watching going forward. I'm going to tell you to watch first the Gulf of Alaska, and here's the second thing. If we develop a trough with a big ridge over Greenland, another trough near Europe, that's called the omega pattern. See how it's like two lows and a ridge? That looks like the Greek letter omega. If that does occur, that will really solidify the wetter conditions we can expect here and the lack of heat. Even though the model says a little drier than normal, I'd say it would be wrong in that regard. So that's what I'm watching. These are the major moving pieces, and I just wanted to add to this the new updates from the CPC, which you saw. Okay, I agree much more with this forecast for summer. And also from the IRI multi-model group, which was here. Okay, watch this though. Coming back to the near term, let's take a look at some of the satellite imagery right here. So this was yesterday on Sunday, and what we saw was our very first, weak tropical disturbance that came out and is currently moving through parts of Alabama today. Now, it doesn't have any major tropical characteristics, but it's brought in a pretty big surge of moisture. In fact, let's get an update on this. There we go. That surge of moisture is already starting to advance. A couple things to think about here. We saw some severe weather in Michigan, a slow-moving front really putting down a lot of precipitation. And I'm not sure if you know or care, but boy, our friends over in Colorado, I'm not sure if you saw this. Look how much snow they got there. Some places 12 to 18 inches of snow. And this isn't just in the mountains. This is out in the prairie and plains as well. Now, before we come back to our forecast for rainfall, okay, which is partly going to be due to that tropical system right there. I got to show you where we had a frost over the weekend. So when we think about the northern plains and the western corn belt, everywhere that you see in gray here saw a frost over this past weekend. So there was a lot of crop damage in this particular area. Now, back to our forecast. If you take a look at the winds, this is the winds tomorrow on Tuesday, and they're about a mile above our heads. So you can see the stronger winds coming through the Caribbean and the Gulf, and then wrapping up into a low that's here. But some of that's kind of turning around. And what that's going to do is that's going to help guide that system, which is here today, over us. I'll show you how much rain we end up getting out of that one. But what's interesting is this particular wind pattern, which was born on the trade winds that started in Africa, is bringing over a little bit of African or Saharan dust. See that? This is today looking at where we could expect to see some dust from the Sahara in this particular region. Now from there, though, I want to show you the kind of big idea. We've got the pull of moisture coming in like this. That's now. There's then the low that forms tomorrow and moves toward the Great Lakes. If there's a severe weather threat this week, it's down in Texas. But we got to talk about how much rainfall we're expecting to get in our area. Because the latest guidance for the next 7 days from the WPC, that's part of the National Weather Service, has us, most of the state, getting well over 1.5 inches of precipitation, with some places in here, possibly picking up maybe over 2 inches of rain. Let's go take a look at it, and we're going to start first with the high-res NAM model. So this was that little tropical feature, and you can see that it, by Monday morning through Monday afternoon and evening, runs right over the top of the Appalachian Mountains. So what that does is that increases the chance of some stronger storms this evening on the eastern side of it. I don't think the model's got the location down exact. I think we're going to see this change around a little bit. But there's the risk of storms, of course, tonight out ahead of it. By 11 p.m. tonight, getting into tomorrow morning, all that heavy rain spreads into Virginia. So this is what I'm talking about, maybe some corrective action on those drier soils. Now, notice on the backside, there's our next system we're watching here. So as the tropical system moves off the coast tomorrow on Tuesday, we're going to be watching for the next big low to be taking off and heading toward the Great Lakes. Now, when does that one drag its front through us? Let's go take a look at the high-res Euro to see that. So there's the tropical system. This is now tomorrow morning. And if we get out to Tuesday through Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon and evening, now getting into Thursday morning, afternoon, and evening, that's when that front approaches us from the west. So it's going to be late in the week where our precipitation chances really increase again. And as that pulls through, it could put down some locally heavy rain. Now after that, as we go into the weekend, we get a chance to dry out. Okay, the front stays offshore, so Saturday and Sunday are drier, and all the action returns to the northern plains, which is no good. These folks are going to continue to see major planting delays because of that. When's our next chance at precip? Well, I just want you to notice something. You see how well established the high is off the coast? So we're going to continue to see this action kind of pulling the moisture in and around into that area. We need to see where that's going in the longer term in just a few moments. But let's add it all up. High-res Euro. So there's the first tropical system. See that? That's Monday, Tuesday. So from the Appalachian Mountains toward the north, we could be picking up 1 inch to 2 inches of rainfall. Now remember, after that, we're waiting till the end of the week, Thursday, Friday. Can you see it adding up there? That's Thursday, getting into Friday, but we know by Saturday the front clears. So if I just stop it there, this is where we get the idea that between 1 to 3 inches of rain is very much possible just in the next 5 days across North Carolina. So good, that pushes back any risk of drought development because we looked at those soil moisture values a few moments ago, but that's something I'm watching. Now real quick, let's pull up one of my favorite sites. You know I use it all the time, weatherbell.com, and I want to go and look at that week 2 pattern real quick. So if we pull this up, let's go to the not northern hemisphere. How about North America view? And let's go see what the height pattern is. Here we go. Okay. Now, by the end of this month, take a look at this pattern. It's open and it's moving. We should expect a major warm up into week 2. But with the deeper trough coming through here, this pattern isn't going to settle down. And that's why when you look out there into week 2, take a look. There's the 7-day forecast anomalies. Yeah, we got another front pushing through our area, and that's why we continue to see better chances of near normal to above normal precipitation for North Carolina as we go out into week 2. Now, what are those temperatures going to be doing? Well, let's first of all, you know what? One other way to look at this precip. Next 10 days, probability of 1 inch. Okay, so I'm just trying to hone in on these amounts. What about the probability of 2 inches? Now, if we do that, oh, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. How about probability? There we go, 2 inches. Highest chance for 2 inches is west, okay, in the Appalachian Mountains. And why not? Let's just look at 4. Yeah, there's a chance that some places over here could see better than 3 inches of rain to 4 inches in this part of North Carolina. So I just wanted to add that to it. Real quick, frost. Well, we're of course not expecting it in our neck of the woods, but there's some frost this morning in the north, upper Midwest around the Great Lakes, and some patchy frost. It continues to be problematic for the western Corn Belt. Temperatures, though, watch this, they're pretty volatile. So here's Monday's highs today. Getting into tomorrow, it's a cool one. That's all the cloud cover and rain. We expected that. As we then play forward into Wednesday, still lingering. Thursday's a warmer day, but then you got the cooler air coming with the front on Friday into Saturday. Well, I guess it doesn't get that cool. Still in the mid-80s, but that front comes through. Notice we had hundreds in California on Wednesday. Now we got the heat back in the southern plains, which is why the drought's going to continue to get worse there, and we open up to a nice warm weekend at the end of this. Let's follow a 5-day sliding window on temperatures, though. So as that ridge comes in, remember at the end of the month, watch the warmth really show up there. But there's more cold air coming in, and that's the next systems that'll be coming through in early June. And that's why we kind of look out there at that longer term precip forecast. In fact, let's just do that real quick. How about the whole month of June 4th to July 4th, that 30-day time period? Heat returns to the plains, increasing drought risk. We see we're expecting near normal temperatures. What about the precipitation side of it, though? Why don't we zoom in there and take a closer look at the U.S.? Right now, the models are more aggressive on keeping us wetter than average, which means we're going to be beating back the risk of drought development through early summer. So we'll keep an eye on all of this, and I'll keep reporting back to you what I see, okay? Have a good week, and I'll talk to you again next Monday. Thanks.